everyone! So today we're going to be looking at two passages in the Bible, one in Genesis about Adam and Eve, and then one in Luke about the woman with the issue of blood. And we're going to be comparing the two because in both instances there are very similar circumstances, but the way in which the people respond to the situation are vastly different. And that's one of my favorite things about the Bible is how stories will reflect one another, especially whenever it comes to stories in the Old Testament and then stories in the New Testament. I love the parallelism. It's so beautiful and things just come full circle. And that's one of my favorite things to do with the Bible is connect the dots between stories and see how they reflect each other, mirror each other, and then how they differ and exploring why they differ. So we'll start in Genesis chapter 3, and then we'll move over to Luke chapter 8. So we'll start in Genesis chapter 3, verse 8. And we're talking about Adam and Eve here. They heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden at the time of the evening breeze. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man and said to him, "Where are you?" He said, "I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself." He said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat?" And the man said, "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me fruit from the tree, and I ate." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this that you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent tricked me, and I ate." Okay, now we turn over to Luke chapter 8, and beginning halfway through verse 42. And we're talking about Jesus here. As he went, the crowds pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years, and though she had spent all she had on physicians, no one could cure her. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak, and immediately her flow of blood stopped. Then Jesus asked, "Who touched me?" When they all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowds are hemming you in and pressing against you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I noticed that power had gone out from me." When the woman realized that she could not remain hidden, she came trembling, and falling down before him, she declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." So in both the story of Adam and Eve and with this woman, we see that they both have done something that has convicted them. They feel that they have done something wrong. And with Adam and Eve, they try to hide themselves from God. But when they're forced to confront God about what they've done, they immediately try to start passing the blame off to whoever else is available to pass the blame to. They're just trying to get out of trouble. They do not want to have to deal with the consequences or confess or accept responsibility for their actions. However, contrary to that, in Luke chapter 8, we see the woman with the issue of blood respond differently. At first, she does hide herself from God, just like Adam and Eve did. But whenever she's forced to confront God, just like they were, she confesses everything to him. Her story, the results, and not only is she confessing this to him, but there's a huge crowd standing around her. So she is being very brave and very vulnerable in this moment. And Jesus responds by telling her, "You're healed, go in peace." Not, "Okay, well, yeah, you should feel guilty for what you've done. You should feel ashamed. You should think about that. Just go live a healthy and peaceful life now." And I think her story is a beautiful illustration for Christians today. We can go to God, we can confess all of our wrongdoings, we can confess anything that we need to get off of our chests to him. And because we're Christians and we have Jesus as our mediator, we can trust that the response is going to be the same to us that it was to the woman here. Our soul will be healed and we can go live in peace. And that's beautiful, and that's a powerful message in and of itself. There are so many different lessons and meanings that you could take from comparing the two stories or from each story on its own, but I think that's a beautiful and powerful lesson to take from it. I also just think in terms of literary style, I love how they mirror each other so much. It's so interesting because both do something that they feel convicted about, like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that." And in both instances, God confronts them face to face. And they're both given an opportunity to speak with God about what they've done. And so it's so interesting to see how in one situation they respond one way, and then thousands of years later, same situation, but the response is totally different. So thank y'all for listening. I hope y'all enjoyed. I enjoyed talking about this with y'all, and I will see y'all later. Bye.